Hello and welcome to the Everyday Adventure podcast. My name is Nikki Bass and I will be bringing you thoughts and ideas and hopefully some inspiration on how to build more adventure into your everyday life. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Ed Accura to the show. Ed is a songwriter, a producer, a rapper, and a host of the In the Deep podcast. And he's also one of the co-founders of the Black Swimming Association, which aims to provide advocacy, research, and support for Black people and people of colour in aquatics. And earlier this year, Ed released a film called Blacks Can't Swim, which is a film documentary about a Black British man whose fears and anxieties about not being able to swim is dramatised as he wrestles with some of the stereotypes that are set by society and the barriers that people face. I watched Ed's film a couple of months ago. It sort of made me reflect on my own upbringing and my own introduction to swimming. Because my parents' favourite story is about how when I was 6 months old, they chucked me in the water, in the swimming pool. And I joined in with these swimming lessons. But I was born in South Africa, and that apparently was the normal thing to do because there was so much fear around swimming pools and around drowning. But I guess also as I grew older, I realised that actually that was the norm, but for a specific sector of society as well. Certainly as a white South African, I had the privilege of having that access to swimming pools, but also to those swimming lessons. And I was really struck when we came to the UK that not only was swimming much less common more generally, but that also, particularly going on to have my own children, just the sheer expense, the difficulty in accessing lessons. And that was just barriers that I was facing. So I guess having had then that experience personally and then watching Ed's film and then actually reflecting on how many more barriers exist in the way potentially for people of colour and for Black people, just to get into a sport which, as the film points out, is a life-saving skill. It's not necessarily that it's just a nice thing to be able to do. I thought that was something that was really important. We talked to a lot of wild swimmers and people who enjoy swimming as part of this podcast. And I thought it might be interesting just to look at this from another angle too. So Ed, thank you so much for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. So I guess my first question really is, what was your journey into swimming? And I guess what motivated you to produce this film?
Okay, so I'm only now learning how to swim from the last 2 years. I never learned how to swim. I grew up in Ghana. I went to Ghana when I was at the age of 7. And my first recollection of swimming was when I was fortunate enough to be in an international school. So in my school, I was in Ghana, West Africa, and I was probably one of the only 2 or 3 Black people in my class. There were people from all over the world. One of my classmates was having a swimming party in his house. They had a swimming pool. And I asked my mum if I could go, and she goes, well, you can't swim. So no. I said, well, can you teach me how to swim, or can I have lessons on how to swim? And my mum was like, well, we don't have a swimming pool in our house. We don't live near the sea. We don't live near a river, so it's not important. You can learn to swim any time in life. At this point, you need to concentrate on your studies. So I never learned how to swim. And I came back to the UK after my secondary education, came back to the UK and never did anything about it. There was no need for me to do anything about it because it wasn't a priority. And I grew up with it not being a priority. It was never a priority amongst my family and anything. So, and then as time went on, I've got to understand when Black people in particular, when you speak to them about swimming, they were like, oh, well, Black people don't swim. It's, we've got heavy bones and all that kind of thing. So I adopted that kind of excuses. And if anybody asked me, oh, so do you swim? I said, of course I don't. I'm Black. And they just carried on, and I just hid behind the stereotypes and the stigmas and such, and then carried on with my life. Then we had our daughter. At the age of 2 or 3, my wife is from an Asian background. Her parents from India. She can swim. And she was like, oh, we need to take Lolita swimming. We need to let her teach her how to swim. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But to me, it wasn't a priority. So, and I didn't swim. And every time my wife asked me, are you going to learn how to swim? I was always like, yeah, one day, next year I'll do it, next year. But it never, as you know, next year never comes. So it never happened. And so at the age of 3, we took my daughter to learn how to swim. And ironically, I was the one that took her swimming on Saturday mornings. took a swim and stood from afar so I don't fall into the pool. And then 2 years ago, 2018, a group of us, me, my wife, my daughter, and a few friends, went to Barbados. And I'm a musician, and basically I don't drink and I don't swim. So, and almost my friends, and they do. So I said to myself, okay, when they are by the pool, the bar by the pool, in the pool, and all that kind of thing, what I planned to do was to record a new album. So first couple of days in Barbados, I tried, put the laptop on, connected everything up, but the laptop wouldn't come on. So it just wouldn't switch on. I tried everything. So I thought it might have been the power supply. So I borrowed the power supply, but everything, nothing worked. The laptop just would not work. It was just dead. So I said, okay, so what do I do then? So read a book or something. But one of my friends who said, oh, why don't we go on a boat trip? And that was my second time in Barbados.
Okay.
And the first time I avoided the boat trip because I have no interest in being on the boat. I have no interest in being anywhere near water. I can't swim. I can't snorkel. I can't dive. But for this time, I didn't have my laptop and I didn't have anything. So I said, okay, why not? We went on this boat trip. It was nice, sunny beaches, beautiful sand. It was amazing. It was like a cloud in the sky. And all that kind of, and when we got on the boat, they asked us to wear a life jacket. So I did, and everybody else did. But once the boat still started moving, everyone started taking their life jacket on. But I kept mine on because obviously I can't swim. Then one of my friends said, oh, let me take a picture of you in your life jacket. You could use it on one of your album covers. And I said, okay. So she took a picture of me in the life jacket. And I was like, said to myself, why would I use a picture of me in a life jacket on an album cover? It doesn't make sense, unless, of course, the song is something to do with swimming. Mm. So whilst everybody was doing their thing, jumping in and out of the water and all that kind of thing, and I was sitting there bored out of my head, I decided to write some lyrics. Then what came to me is the fact that a lot of Black people do not swim. There's a disproportionate amount of Black people that do not swim. So I started writing a film called Blacks Can't Swim. So basically my idea was that someone out there should go and make a film about the issue with Blacks and swimming. And I thought back to the film White Men Can't Jump. So I said, maybe someone should make a film, Black People Can't Swim. So I said, make a film called Blacks Can't Swim. And at the end of the chorus, I wrote, is it a cultural or physical thing? I wrote most of the song anyway. I wrote the chorus, first half of the verse, whilst I was on the boat. And got back to the hotel. And guess what? I said, let me just try something else with the laptop. So I got the laptop and I pressed the button and it came on. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So it just worked. And it was almost as if it was meant to be. Like, because if it had worked, I wouldn't have gone on that trip. So I recorded the song and came back to the UK, holiday over, back to work. And I put the song out. I put it on Amazon, iTunes, I put it out. And I get a message from a company called Swimming Nature. And they said, we've heard this song, they make a film called Blacks Can't Swim. And we like it. And there's something on there that made us contact you. It's like, and you mentioned that it is a cultural, physical thing. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is we want to teach you how to swim for free. Now, I grew up in London, and if anybody says they're giving you something for free, the first thing is like, what does this person want? So what's the catch? What's the catch?
There's no such thing as free. Yeah.
There's no such thing. And they say that, and basically, and the reason they gave was that Swimming Nature was a white, pretty middle class swimming school, which teaches, a lot of elite swimmers and such. Mm. They knew about the issue of the disproportionate amount of Black people that do not swim, but they said they couldn't talk about it because of the sensitivity of it. But since I was talking about it, they're ready to work with me on it. Mm-hmm. So they said, as long as I let them document it, then they will teach me how to swim. So I said, yeah, fair enough. So around about the same time, another friend of mine said to me, that song that you said about you're asking somebody to make the film, why don't you make that film? And I said, don't be silly. I don't even know where to start making the film. How am I going to start making a film? But then again, that I remembered I've made music videos. So we came up with the idea of that. I get a group of people who sit together and we'll have a conversation about, the disproportionate amount of Black people and why they don't swim and what will make them swim and such. it was going to end up being about 5 minutes. And I said, no, I want it to be a half an hour. And and the director said, these are people who are not celebrities. They're just, people within the community. If I make the film a half an hour, people are going to be really bored of it because there's not, if you're just people sitting there talking. So in order for it to be, if you want to elongate it, the best thing to do is get a drama, have some kind of a storyline behind it. So that's when I came up with the idea of me coming downstairs, put the television on, and they're talking about flooding because of this rain, all this thunderstorms, all this rain. And because I can't swim, the first thing I do is go and buy a life jacket and wear it everywhere I go. So I did that. Then after we did that, after they shot that part of the film and everything, we still needed something else. So I came up with the idea of this voice in my head telling me that because I'm black, I won't be able to swim and all that kind of thing. So I should just be content with wearing the life jacket and all that. And Mr. Society was born. So that was Mr. Society. So basically, it was me stuck between my friends and family telling me that, of course, you can swim. Everyone can swim. Then Mr. Society telling me that, no, you can't. You're black. So I've got these two opposing forces. And then I have to make a decision which one I listen to. And so that's how the film was born. And the whole idea of the film was to just bring it out and release it through just stick it on iTunes. It was not even, there was not even an intention of it being a film. It was just a video of my journey. And so I brought out the trailer, I think it was December 2018. It was a 2-minute trailer. And I put it on Twitter and it just went crazy. And it's like people were just messaging me, and it's like from all over the world, people were retweeting it. And let's talk about this. We knew this is an issue. And there's black people saying that, yes, this is my personal, and people were telling me their stories. And Asian people were telling me their stories. White people were asking me about the stories, about my issues and all that kind of. So it went crazy. So, and then I said, okay, I'm going to have to release this as a film. I'm going to do this properly and just release it as a film. So we finished the film and I launched it. I didn't release it. I launched it in February 2019. So February last year. I just launched it to an audience. And basically, if you wanted to watch the film, you have to go onto the website, tell me why you want to watch it, and I'll send you the link for free. And as a result of that, we started the podcast in the deep end to understand other people's journeys and other people's stories. And one of the things that I noticed was that a lot of people within the black community said that there was not enough role models for them. And that's why I started the podcast, so that I can get influential black people to tell me their stories, their swimming journeys. One of the people that I met was a lady by the name of Alice Deering. And Alice Deering was the only black swimmer in Team GB. And she told me her frustration about being the only black person. And so basically, we were doing exactly the same thing, but she was doing it from an elite level, and I was doing it from a grassroots level, using myself as an example. That I haven't swum all my life. First time I ever went into a swimming pool, actually into the swimming pool, was in the film. That was the very first time.
Oh, wow. I hadn't realised that. Gosh.
Yeah. So that was very first. You could imagine how daunting it was. I'm producing a film for the very first time and swimming for the very first time.
Not to put too much pressure on yourself or anything.
Not at all. So Alice and I were talking, and then she says, she goes, guess what? I'm being interviewed by a lady by the name of Sarah Jones from the BBC next week. Yeah, you should meet up with her and have a chat with her. So I said, okay, yeah, why not? Yeah, that'd be a great thing. So I contacted Sarah and we had a chat, but nothing ever happened. Around about October last year, I get a message from Sarah saying, I've met this lady by the name of Danielle Obey, an inventor of a headscarf, this wonderful headscarf, which keeps the water out of the hair. Because one of the reasons why a lot of black women refuse to go swimming is because of their hair, the damage that chlorine does to their hair. So we went down to a hotel in Charing Cross. We sat down in the foyer and we spoke for hours. Basically, me, Danielle, Sarah, and myself were all had a story as to how we became involved in a campaign about swimming. And then we found out that all three of us and Alice, who wasn't there at the time, Alice Deering, had something in common, and that was Swim England. Because prior to that, Swim England they've done an article on myself based on their Love to Swim campaign. Swim England were working directly with Alice Deering through Team GB. Swim England had just endorsed Danielle's headscarf, and Swim England were working with Seren on an article in the BBC. So basically, all of us had a separate connection with Swim England. So we came up with an idea that we know that there's an issue. But why don't we go to Swim England and propose something so that we can, get all the black, trying to get more black people swimming. And one thing led to another. The BSA was born, Black Swimming Association, to encourage black people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the statistics, that basically 95% of black adults and 80% of black children in England do not swim. So there's a big issue there. And so we launched in March this year. It feels like last year.
No, this year is a bit strange for that.
Year. Yeah, and so that we're doing the great work trying to encourage as many black people to swim, telling them the water safety aspects of it and education and such. So that's bringing us up to present day.
Amazing. I mean, I guess there are sort of the obvious benefits in a way of, having produced the film and the work that you're trying to do. I guess for you, what have been some of the key moments when you thought actually this work is really having an impact, and in a way maybe that you didn't expect?
Every single day. If you had told me a couple of years ago that I'll be sitting here having a conversation with you about swimming to start with, I would have said, what are you smoking? If someone had told me that I'll be a co-founder of an organization that has partnered with Swim England, the Royal Life Saving Society, RNLI, and Speedo, as an advocate for swimming within the black community, I would have said that's crazy. But yes, we have. That's basically what we are there to do. We're speaking and we're encouraging, we are speaking with people from all walks of life about the importance of swimming. And we're also, we're creating a path to try and change the perception within the community, which is not going to be easy because we've been left out as a community. Swimming has not been a part of our culture. Swimming has, for many reasons. I can sit down here and talk for hours about different reasons why this has been the case. But it is the case, and we don't swim, and we have the highest drowning rates. And as a result, there's something has to be done, and something had to be done. And we just happen to be, it's almost as if all the stars aligned, and here we are. So yes, to answer your question, every single day, when I post something, the kind of responses I get alone is like, wow, okay. 2 years on, and I'm still, I produced the film in 2018, and I released it in 2020. We're still having a conversation about it today. That shows that there's something that had to be done. There is an issue, and there's something that needs to be done.
And I guess just on that, you're doing such incredible work in raising that visibility and, like you said, having those conversations as well and bring those conversations to the fore. I mean, what do you think needs to happen, needs to change next to really cement the changes that you're trying to bring about and remove some of those barriers?
I made some recommendations and the narrative. I personally think that the only thing that can change it is the Black youth culture. So let me explain. So when they say 95% of Black adults and 80% of Black children do not swim, they're not talking about children that live in the privileged parts of London, the privileged part of Kent, the privileged part. They're talking about kids in the inner cities. And there's a number of reasons why they don't swim, because our parents don't see it as an important thing. There's not much focus on there. And let's say children that live in the inner city, parents are struggling to put food on the table. Swimming is not going to be the highlights of the day. They're not going to, so basically it never happens. And I had this conversation with a number of school teachers. Swimming is part of the curriculum, but we all know that for you to be able to pick it up, for you to be able to do anything with it, it has to be done. You have to have lessons outside of school as well. Yeah. You cannot rely on the school system. If you're not in that position financially to do so, you wouldn't do it. So therefore, focus has to be on the younger generation. They are the ones that can change the narrative. So people like myself who learn to swim later on in life are few and far between. So my recommendation is that there has to be a lot of focus on the younger generation, and that can change the narrative. And another thing is that it's not just asking them to swim. There's got to be something, there's got to be an incentive. And I personally believe there has to be an incentive for them to swim. And that's when the career comes into effect. Because we sat down and had a conversation with Royal Life Saving Society, and they said they have so many positions available for lifeguards. They have so many positions available for swim teachers, and they will actually train them and give them a job at the end of it. So we're working on a campaign together with Speedo and all the other governing bodies to put something out there to say that when your child comes out of school, they don't have to go and work at McDonald's. They don't go and have to work in JD Sports. They can get a job and they can get trained as a coach or a lifeguard. So now there's an incentive for them to learn how to swim because they can get a career out of it. So the mom and dad who's doing about 2 or 3 jobs, they're not sending their kids swimming just because it's a life skill, because clearly that doesn't work. Because if the life skill part of it had worked, 95% of us would be swimming. So there has to be something else. And now there's another incentive, which is a job. My son or my daughter can get a job out of it. Okay, now let's talk. Now let's have a conversation. So what happens now? These kids now get a job. They are in the swimming pools. They are by the coast. They are lifeguards. So now the younger generation looks at them and says, oh, they can do it. I can do it. I can do it. So, because right now they don't see any Black people there, so it doesn't encourage them to do it. And that's when we talk about role models.
Yeah,
role models is people like yourself. You see people like yourself doing something, you will do it as well. So oh, you can do it. I can do it as well. That's why I keep on saying that Black youth culture is what's going to change the perception. It's going to take a while, but I think that's where we're going to start. But what swim culture has to do is it's got to be relatable to them. Because when I speak to a lot of Black kids and I talk about swimming, first thing they say is, "Oh, but it's not for us." And I go, "Why?" And they go, "Well, it's not exciting. It's not interesting. It's not. We don't think it's for Black people. It's and that. So there's a lot of things that have to be changed. We have to make it relatable to them. And I'll give you an example. You may or may not have heard that I announced last Monday the sequel to a film called Last Country.
Yes. I was about to ask you, so I don't even need to ask the question now.
I told you. So in the shooting of the film, I talked about 12 people from that environment, from the inner city London council estates environment, and from a, let's say, deprived background. And those are the ones in the film. We wanted to make it authentic, so we're not using actors, we're using real life people. And there's 2 kids or 2 young adults, a guy and a girl, who are part of a community center for deprived and underprivileged children. And basically the whole idea of the program was to give them a better opportunity in life. But one of the elements of the program was that they have to learn how to swim, or they have to swim. It's one of it, because it's sports and music and finance and all that kind of thing. But one of the elements is swimming. And these 2 kids refuse to swim. They say, "I'm not going to get into the water." So the guy who's running the program gets frustrated and he says, "Oh, I've heard about this guy called Accura, and he had a similar issue with swimming. Let me give him a call and see if he can mentor these." So he calls me and asks me to mentor this young guy and girl. And then it follows the journey through there where they say, "No, I'm not going to get into it." And I'm trying to find out why. I'm trying to encourage them. And they're having their own Mr. and Mrs. Society talking to them, saying that you don't need to swim and all that kind of thing. So it follows the same, and there's interviews as well. But the interviews are being conducted by 14 to 25-year-olds. So basically, the last scene of the film was in the pool. Basically, it's the same swimming pool that we used in a film called Last Country. I and the director said to the guys that, "Okay, the last scene is in the film, you're going to have to come into the pool." And they were like, "Swimming pool? No, that wasn't part of the bargain. We said we're in the pool." And some of them can swim in real life, some of them can swim, and some of them can't. But they said, "No, we're not going in there. We're not going in there. We're not, no. So we spoke to them and we said, "Listen, we will kit you out. Speedo's going to give you all the kits and all that kind of thing." And they said, "Well, can we keep it?" "Oh, yeah, of course." Okay, so suddenly they're kind of interested, and they said, "Okay, all right, okay." So they came down, picked a Saturday. I had the pool from about 10 to 2 o'clock, 4 hours. So they came down, still a bit hesitant. Then we put music there, we put some music around there, made it, that kind of thing. And then they started warming up to it. Warming up, then we got into the pool, did the same, the film director and the crew just filmed everything. And they were splashing around it. First a bit hesitant, but then they started splashing around and all that kind of thing. Then I had to leave at dead on 2 o'clock, so I left. The director called me about 3 o'clock and goes, Ed, can you speak to the guy who runs the pool and see if you can get an extension? These kids don't want to get out of the pool. They're having so much fun, they don't want to get out of the pool. They're just enjoying themselves. You must have seen, I don't know if there's a picture going around with me and a group of people in a pool. I don't know if you've seen it. We launched that picture with the film, and when I announced, the thing you say in the pool and there's a bunch of people, that was them. They was having so much fun. They were splashing around, which goes to show that once you make it inviting to them, once you make it relatable to them, they will get into the pool and they will learn to swim and they will swim. And then if we can keep on doing that, we can change the narrative by, making it acceptable to the Black youth culture. So that's basically our plan.
That's next.
Yeah.
Amazing. So it's a question I ask all of my guests, just to finish off with. If you had one piece of advice, if somebody's listening to this program and they've never swum before, or it's something that they've never done and they've been really worried and anxious about doing it, what one piece of advice would you give them to get started?
Okay, this could be a bit hard-hitting, but it worked for me. The single one reason that made me, film aside, everything aside, the single reason that made me decide to learn how to swim was my daughter. And it was basically that I said to myself, if I was ever with my daughter and she fell in the water and I couldn't help her, I don't think I would ever forgive myself. And that's the reason why I decided to learn how to swim. A lot of people would say, I haven't had to know how to swim up until now, but you never know when you would. We're surrounded by water everywhere. Nowadays we go on holidays, pre-COVID. You never know. And it's a life skill. Plus, apart from the life skill, it's the benefit of the mental health benefits of it, the physical benefits of it, the recreational benefits of it. I would say give it a try, give it a go.
Amazing. And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of the discussion I think I have with people who come on the podcast who've really managed to do something that felt like such a huge challenge or barrier for them has been about that sense of purpose. Actually, what is that thing that's driving you above all else? And actually that can help you to override that, I guess, that fear and the reasons why not to. Ed, thank you so much. That's been absolutely amazing. If people want to find out more about you, about the film, about the BSA, where can they go?
Well, www.blackscan'tswim.com or thebsa.co.uk. So thebsa.co.uk. Or just type in Accura in Google and you'll find it. Awesome. There's a lot of people that don't understand. They say, but if you watch the film, it will explain everything. Yeah. The amount of times I've had people come up to me and said, well, no, you can't. And I've had white people say to me, you can't say Black Swimming Association. You can't say, how can you call the film Black Can't Swim? That's racism in itself. And when they go on around, I said, just watch the film. Then when you finish watching the film, we can continue the conversation. Mm-hmm. And then they watch the film, they come back and they go, oh, I get it.
But what we'll do, I'll make sure all of the links are in the show notes anyway. So anyone who's listening to this can go back and find it really easily. But absolutely second that. Watch the film and it will, like you said, answer so many questions, but also give so much to reflect on, I think, as well. And I can't wait to see the second one as well. So I'm really looking forward to that too. Have you not seen it yet?
Me too. I called the doctor. I said, Mr. X. He goes, take your time. Take your time. I said, can you just send me a little bit of
just a taster? Awesome.
The first official trailer is due next month. So
brilliant. We'll keep an eye out for that, and people can go follow you on Instagram and elsewhere and find it. Amazing. Thank you so much again for coming on the show. It's been absolutely amazing to have you. And hopefully we'll get you back on again once the second film's out too. Continue the conversation.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, there was so much in that conversation that I could pick up on and delve into further. It's sort of hard to know where to begin. I guess what I wanted to think about this week is invisible barriers, because often there are visible barriers to why we don't do things that we might want to, or might do things that are good for us in some ways. But often there are some invisible barriers that might not be obvious to those around us. And I think in the case of what Ed is trying to do with the Black Swimming Association, it really is moving both those visible and those invisible barriers. It's about dismantling some of the stereotypes that surround Black people swimming, but it's also about creating a safe space and creating an environment that can support and help people if they do want to start on that journey, whilst raising awareness about the importance of swimming and, how it can in the end save lives. And I think it's really interesting just to think about how we don't always see the barriers that other people are facing, but also that when we are facing barriers in terms of what we want to achieve, where we would like to go, sometimes it's quite hard to dismantle those on our own. And that in the end is what organisations like the Black Swimming Association set out to do, is to provide that support, to provide that information and that knowledge, and to provide that role modelling and saying it's possible. Because a lot of the time, the invisible barriers are those voices, whether internal or external, saying this isn't possible. One of the only ways we can change that narrative is by engaging with people or looking for those voices who say it is possible. This is something that you can do, and then finding the support we need in order to be able to do it. Also, it shows why community is so important, why so many of the wonderful outdoor activities that we enjoy, actually having a group of people around you cheering you on, or who can provide advice or give you access, is so absolutely key. So it's a shout out really as well to all of those of you who are part of those communities and are doing that work, because it is phenomenal and it makes such a difference to people's lives as well. But anyway, so that's my thought for this week. If you have any thoughts or points about this week's episode, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. You can find me on Instagram, Resilience at Work. Email me, contact me via my website, which is resiliencework.co.uk. Or please feel free to join the Everyday Adventure Club on Facebook, because I'd love to see you in there. I'm currently running a 28-day everyday adventure challenge for February. So every single day I'm setting a mini challenge for myself to try and get me more motivated through this month. So examples of things so far have included going for torchlit runs, trying new cooking recipes. I did some painting the other day. Every single day is a new challenge or task. So yeah, please feel free to jump in and just follow the madness if nothing else. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you again next week with another wonderful guest. Next week is our last guest before half term. So I'm going to be taking a week off over half term and follow some of my own advice. So next week's the last week, and then we've got a 2-week break, and then we'll be back again at the end of February. But anyway, hope you can join us next week, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye.